Following our deep dives into various aspects of consciousness, today we're exploring the intricate world of relationship patterns. The universe operates with flawless precision, saying yes to every pattern in our consciousness. Our relationships reflect this exactness, each attraction, each conflict, each moment of connection choreographed by programming running beneath our awareness, each pattern carrying profound protective wisdom. Consider your attachment patterns, those precise ways connection forms and dissolves in your life. Some relationships naturally end at specific time markers, exactly 6 months, 2 years, whenever real intimacy approaches. Your system might accelerate closeness, then pull away at exact moments, or maintain relationships at particular emotional temperatures. These aren't random behaviors. They're sophisticated protection mechanisms calibrated by generations of experience. Dive beneath the surface, and you might discover your 6-month relationship limit perfectly matches when childhood care became unpredictable. Or perhaps it carries the exact age when your grandmother faced devastating loss, teaching future generations that deep attachment brings danger. Some family systems hold cellular memories of when visible love made them targets, when deep connection led to forced separations, when emotional bonds became vulnerabilities in times of conflict. Those who survived by maintaining precise levels of attachment passed this wisdom forward. If your ancestors came from environments where full surrender to love meant vulnerability to persecution, your system might maintain exactly enough warmth for connection while preventing the depth that historically brought devastation. Notice if your connections follow specific cultural rhythms, perhaps maintaining distance during certain seasons that once brought historical danger, or creating bonds that mirror ancestral protection patterns. Watch how these attachment patterns express in daily life. You might share strong initial connection, but become distant when someone shows consistent care. Or perhaps you maintain relationships just below the threshold where deep vulnerability would be required. Your system might create precise emotional distances that once kept your family safe through generations of upheaval. The transformation of these patterns begins with tiny experiments in timing. If your system ends relationships at 6 months, practice staying present for just 5 extra minutes when you feel the urge to leave. Create specific exit points you don't have to use. Each small success builds new evidence that safety can exist even in deeper connection. Now observe your vulnerability patterns, those intricate ways you regulate emotional exposure. You might reveal yourself in exact measurements, sharing precisely enough to create connection while maintaining protective barriers. These calculations often carry ancestral wisdom about what was safe to express in your lineage. Notice how you manage needs and desires. Do you express them indirectly? Wait for particular conditions? Your system might be protecting exact moments when direct asking led to rejection, when certain emotions triggered chaos, when needs became weapons. Some cultures learned that survival meant keeping specific aspects of the heart carefully guarded while allowing others limited visibility. The way you regulate emotional expression might follow protection maps drawn by generations before you. Watch if you become slightly unavailable right when someone offers genuine care, or if you create emotional distance precisely when connection deepens. These patterns might preserve crucial survival memories about when full trust led to devastating consequences. Pay attention to how vulnerability patterns show up in daily interactions. You might share personal information, but keep certain topics carefully protected. Or perhaps you allow emotional intimacy in specific contexts while maintaining guards in others. Your system might regulate vulnerability differently with different types of people, following sophisticated calculations about safety. Working with vulnerability patterns requires what I call calibrated courage. Instead of pushing for complete openness, experiment with micro-adjustments in emotional exposure. Practice expressing one small need in secure situations. Allow yourself to be seen in controlled increments, giving your system time to register that vulnerability doesn't automatically lead to danger anymore. Conflict patterns reveal another layer of protection intelligence. Your system might initiate arguments at exact moments when intimacy reaches certain depths, unconsciously creating distance through discord. Notice the particular ways you engage in disagreements. Some systems learned that loud conflicts kept deeper threats at bay, while others discovered that careful silence preserved essential bonds. The timing of your conflicts might follow ancestral rhythms. Tension could rise around particular anniversaries, holidays, or life transitions. These patterns might protect the exact moments when your family system experienced historical trauma, when celebrations turned to chaos, when transitions meant loss. Some cultures carry memories of when certain types of conflict brought danger, teaching future generations to manage discord in specific ways. Observe how conflict patterns manifest in your relationships. You might notice specific triggers that activate protection responses, certain tones of voice, particular phrases, or specific situations that your system recognizes as historically dangerous. Watch how you move through disagreement, perhaps maintaining exact emotional distances that once kept your family safe during times of social upheaval. To transform conflict patterns, introduce what I call conscious choreography. Notice the exact moment your system moves toward discord and create small pauses. Not to prevent the conflict, but to explore what other safety strategies might be available. Practice expressing tension in new ways while honoring your system's need for protection. The space between trigger and response holds transformative power. Consider this pause your relationship laboratory, a moment when you can witness your protection patterns engaging before they fully activate. This isn't about stopping your natural responses. It's about creating enough space to notice them unfolding. Start by identifying your unique trigger signatures, those first subtle signs that your system is moving into protection mode. You might notice a slight tightening in your chest before emotional withdrawal begins. Perhaps your voice shifts tone just before conflict emerges. Your hands might become cold seconds before you begin creating distance. These physical cues are your system's early warning signals, sophisticated alerts refined through generations of experience. Watch for what I call cascade points, specific moments or situations that set your protection patterns in motion. It might be when your partner expresses strong emotion, when they make future plans, or when they show signs of pulling away. Notice if certain words activate your system: always, never, commitment language, or phrases that echo past wounds. These triggers often carry precise memories of when similar situations required protection. The art of transformation lives in expanding the space between recognition and reaction. When you notice your trigger signatures activating, practice what I call gentle pausing. Take one conscious breath. Name what's happening. My protection system is engaging. This simple acknowledgement creates crucial neural space where new possibilities can emerge. During this pause, get curious about the layers of protection activating. Notice if your response carries personal history. This feels like that time when. Or perhaps it echoes ancestral patterns. This reminds me of stories I heard about. Your system might be protecting not just your own experiences, but the accumulated wisdom of your lineage. Practice what I call protection pattern mapping during these pauses. Notice the exact sequence: trigger, body sensation, emotional shift, protective response. Each step reveals something about what your system is brilliantly protecting. These patterns often follow precise choreography, perhaps 3 seconds of tension before withdrawal, or specific stages of emotional distancing before conflict emerges. Create tiny experiments within these pauses. If you usually withdraw immediately when triggered, practice staying present for just 2 extra breaths. If conflict is your protection strategy, explore holding the tension silently for a moment before responding. These micro-adjustments show your system that there might be new ways to maintain safety. Remember, the goal isn't to prevent your protection patterns from engaging. They're too wise and too important for that. Instead, use these pauses to expand your system's repertoire of responses. Each time you create space between trigger and reaction, you're building new neural pathways alongside the old ones, never abandoning what's kept you safe, but gently exploring what else might be possible. Create resolution rhythms that feel secure to your system. If quick reconciliation is your pattern, try maintaining disagreement for 30 extra seconds. If distance is your strategy, practice tiny moments of reconnection while conflict is still fresh. Show your protection mechanisms that safety can be maintained even as you explore new ways of moving through discord. Integration happens through what I call pattern dialogue, getting curious about what each protection mechanism is brilliantly solving. When you notice yourself pulling back, creating conflict, or managing vulnerability, pause and ask, what are you protecting right now? What wisdom are you carrying? Let each pattern reveal its purpose before exploring potential expansion. Remember, these patterns aren't problems to fix, they're sophisticated solutions your system created to protect something precious. The key isn't dismantling them, but expanding their repertoire. Practice small experiments in new ways of connecting while maintaining access to familiar protection strategies. The universe will continue saying yes to whatever program runs in your relationship consciousness. But understanding these patterns' deeper purpose allows you to consciously update them, creating new safety that honors both your history and your heart's capacity for connection. Next time, we'll explore how these principles apply to intimacy patterns and our deepest programming around rejection and worth. Until then, notice which patterns resonate in your own experience. What yes are you discovering? What protection are you beginning to understand? So, please come back for part 2 of this video. Thank you for watching. This is Ayla, signing off.